Hi everyone, Claire here, and today I'm sharing another project that I created for the Imagine Crafts Artist in Residence when I was a member of their design team, and this was back in 2015. So the project is decorating with the Memento Luxe fabric ink a item of clothing, and I decided to do a summer t-shirt. So I'm using the Memento Luxe inks, and you can see the pistachio, the pear tart, and I did change the others, so I'll go more into detail later. I'm using the clearly Besotted stamp set, and this one is Sketched Blooms. I believe this one's still available. And the Simon Says stamp, large stamp, which is the Falling Snow, which at the time was really hard to get hold of, so I was quite lucky to have that. The first thing that I need to do is make some masks of the stamps because I will be doing some masking, and I'm using the Eclipse masking paper, which comes on a big roll. I believe that people now use the post-it note masking sheets, which are similar. I'm not sure you can get the Eclipse anymore. I think it's a discontinued brand. So I've cut a piece off and I'm going to stamp up my stamp, whichever one I'm going to mask off, with the Memento Tuxedo Black. And I'm going to do two of the leaves, which I don't actually end up using at all, and only one of the rosebud, and I end up needing three of the rosebud. But the masks are reusable, so it doesn't matter that I got it wrong. I can use them another time, and I do believe I have. When I cut out my masks, I always do roughly about a millimetre border all the way around, and I find that they actually mask better if you do that, and you'll see later on when you see the finished product what I mean when I'm doing that, because it gives like a halo and it just makes it super easy. Moving on to the t-shirts, I'm using the Memento Luxe with the Rosebud ink pad, and I've got a sheet of paper and my t-shirt, and I'm going to put the sheet of paper inside the t-shirt, and I'm making sure that I'm not going to stamp over the seam because I won't get a really good stamp if I do that. I need to stamp above the seam, so I need to make sure that my scrap paper is in the correct position. I don't want the ink to go through the t-shirt, and I wasn't sure at this point whether it would or not, so just for caution's sake I put the piece of paper in between. I didn't actually need it. So I'm inking up the stamp really well because I want to make sure that I've got quite a lot of ink on it, and you do need to be careful that you don't ink up the background so much, and you can see on the stamp that I actually have. And when I stamp it, I am pressing, but I'm not pressing to the point where I'm pushing the background of the stamp into the actual fabric. And as you can see, I've stamped above the hemline, and I'm just going to go and fill in that little edge. And there we go. Doesn't it look cool? So I'm going to basically rinse and repeat, and I'm going to do the same front and back, and just ink up really well in between. If you do try to stamp over the actual hemline and the sewing line, you will get weird cut out images and weird halos, so it's just easier in this case to just go above the hemline. It just makes it cleaner and it makes it look better. And you can see from the close-up what I mean about not going over the hemline. I'm just above the stitching, and then I'm going to heat set it with just a heat tool just to make sure that it's dry before I flip it over, and do the same on the reverse, which I've cut out because you don't need to see me stamping the reverse as well as the front. Just checking that the t-shirt's not too hot before I flip it over, and having a good look at it, make sure I'm happy. And there you go. Doesn't it look cool? And you can see as it stretches, it's not breaking the pattern or anything, and it goes back to how it should be. So we begin at the top. I have again placed a piece of paper on the inside of the t-shirt just to protect the other side. And I'm taking the clearly besotted stamp, and I'm starting off with the full block image, so it's going to give a solid block of colour. And I'm going to use the rosebud again, and that'll match the bottom of the t-shirt. This is the beauty of this process, is that it all matches. So I'm inking it up really well because it is just a big solid stamp, and it was the first time I'd actually used that stamp, so it's never been used before, and I just want to make sure that I've got plenty of ink on there. And you can see I've got some over inking on the edge, and I'm just going to wipe that off with a paper towel so I don't get any over inking on my t-shirt. The last thing that you want is some sloppy stamping and over inking on your actual acrylic block transferring onto your project, so just be aware and make sure that your acrylic block is clean. Onto the overstamping with the detail. So the petals come in a different stamp, and I've inked this one up with the Memento Luxe in the Sweet Plum, so it's a darker colour, so it's going to stand out more. Then I just heat set that quickly so I don't smudge it with the mask when I place the mask on. And that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm lining up the mask and I'm masking that piece off really carefully. The masking paper does stick to fabric, so don't worry about that. And then I'm going to ink up the stamp again and stamp at the side. So when you're stamping with masking, what you want to do is you want to stamp the image that is going to be at the front, so the full image, first, and then you build up the background. So you work backwards. You don't go in the background and then build forward, you build the foreground and build backwards. You'll see what I mean once you've watched further on in the video. And again, taking the Sweet Plum, I'm going to stamp the detail in so you can actually see that the rose is a rose. And sorry, you got my head again. I think this is where I realised in the making of the video that I'd actually done the wrong masks. So I quickly stamped and cut out a couple more masks. And there you can see. So I need to mask off that second rose because I'm doing 3 in a bunch. So I'm masking off the second rose, and then I'm going to come in with the base and stamp the new base over the top of the mask. So this one is going to be behind the other image too. As before, I'm just going to stamp the detail over the top. So I've got my trio of roses, and the next thing I need to think about is putting in the leaves. So I will jump to that in a second. I need to mask off the final rose because the leaves are going to go behind all of the roses. So again, I'm going to take the solid and the detail, and in the solid I'm going to stamp in the Memento Luxe again in the Pear Tart, and there you go. I'm going to stamp all 3 of the leaves exactly where I want to place them, and I'm aiming for the 3 gaps, the top and the left and the right. Just have a think about your placement when you're placing it. You'll see I hesitate quite a few times and I hover and move the actual stamp around. With the Memento Luxe, you do have quite a lot of time to play with where you want the ink and where you want the stamp. So you can see there, I was going to put it to the left, and then I decided to put it to the right, and then I decided to put it in the middle. You do have plenty of playtime, so don't worry about the Memento Luxe. They are fantastic inks, and once you heat set them on the back with a hot iron as well, they are permanent. I found that heating them with a heat tool also helps make them permanent. So I was happy with the 3 leaves and where I placed them, so I'm going on and using the Pistachio Memento Luxe, and I'm going to ink up that detail and put in the actual detail of the leaves. You can't really see it very well on the video, but on the images at the end and at the beginning you can see how it's come out beautifully. So I'm just going to finish the 3 leaves, take off the masks, and then I'm going to heat set them and make them permanent, and I'll show you a close-up shortly. I hope you're enjoying me show you what I created, and I know that all of this was from 2015, but I've just actually located all the files on a hard drive that I thought previously had been lost. I really enjoyed making these videos at the time, and I really enjoyed doing the project, and I got quite a lot of good feedback from them, so this is why I decided that I would share them on YouTube now. You know, there's no point wasting a video once I spent so much time actually doing it and creating it. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you will like and subscribe to my channel. It's great to have you here. Bye.